Hello and welcome to Linux Hints YouTube channel. Today, we're going to show you how to create and use structures in C programming language. For this tutorial, we are going to require a GCC compiler on a Linux machine and Visual Studio Code. So let's get started with the video. So what is a structure in C language? A structure is a user-defined data type in C and C++. A structure creates a data type that can be used to group items of possibly different types of data in a single type. Suppose we want to store information about a user using a specific service. Such information can include the username, email, address, service mode, and such. To store such information, we can go about creating each attribute as a standalone variable. However, when we have 10 plus users, the code can spiral out of control and become very difficult and tiresome. To solve this, we can create a structure. Inside the structure, we can store all the attributes shared by all the users and then add unique variables for the users. If you are coming from an object-oriented programming background like Java and Python, then the structures in C may look like a class to you. To demonstrate structures in C programming language, we are going to open up Visual Studio Code. To define a structure in C programming language, we use the keyword struct, followed by the structure's name. After that, we put the attributes of the structure inside the curly braces. Each attribute is separated by a semicolon. Now that we are familiar on how to create a structure, next up we are going to create a structure of a person's object. We are going to give it some attributes, and then inside the main function we are going to create some variables of the person's data type. First up, let's start by including the library. Next we create a structure of person. In here I want the person to have an attribute age of data type integer. Next up I want the person to have some name. Next up, we're going to create some variables of this person's object. For that, we're going to initialize a main function. Now to create a variable of this person data type, we need to use the structure keyword again. And then after using the name of the data type that we have just created, which in our case is person, we can write the name of the variable that we want to create, which in our case is p1. Now to access the attributes of the person, and to give it some values, we use the assignment operator and we put the values inside curly braces. This is known as accessing variables. Now let's try to print out the name of the person p1. To fetch the value of a person variable, we can use the dot operator. As you can see, we created a variable p1 of the data type person, and then we assigned the attributes of that person some values, and then we were able to fetch those values in the printf statement as well. There is an important point that we must cover, which is when we are defining a variable of a particular structured data type, we should always keep in mind that the order of declaration is always followed. This means that if we were to replace both of these arguments with each other, the program will not work, because it will try to assign the value of a string to an integer variable. To fix this problem, we can use the designated initialization. Let's try to create another object of this person class. And this time around, we're not going to directly pass the values. Rather, we're going to access the attributes of the person by using the dot operator and then setting them equal to some value. Now let's try to print out the attributes of this person p2 variable. Now let's try and execute this program. As you can see, we were able to assign values to the person p2 attributes and we were able to fetch them. But we still cannot differentiate between the normal initialization and the designated initialization. So let's try to replace these arguments with each other. As you can see, even after replacing the arguments with each other, we saw no effect on the output of the program. This proves that by using the designated initialization, the order of the declaration does not matter. And this is how you use a structure in C programming language on a Linux-based operating system. You can read more information about structures in C by clicking on the link in the description box and heading over to the Linux Hints website. And that is all for this video.